This is the Film Geeks podcast.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to another edition of the Film Geeks podcast powered by Indian Nerve. And as always, is Abhishek, and I'm joined by Arindam and Anir. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, what's up?
What's up? Everything's good. All excited.
After a very slow couple of weeks, it just feels like finally some things are happening in Hollywood. Like finally we have a lot of news coming out, which we will get into very quickly. But mostly we'll be going into details about some movies which we had discussed in our previous editions of the podcast, some movies which we were really looking forward to. And next week, in fact, we have a couple of those movies coming out, which we will be going on and talking about in our future edition of the Film Geeks podcast. Those two being John Wick 2 and the Lego Batman films. But before we go on and discuss and hype up these two movies for all you people out there, let's go and talk about a few of the news items. So the first one is that Richard Linklater, Chris Christopherson, and Sam Rockwell have joined the cast of Ethan Hawke's indie feature called Blaze. Now, Blaze is a biopic of country and western songwriter Blaze Foley, who lived in a treehouse in the 1970s with his longtime girlfriend Sybil Rosen. The film is set during at the time where this guy called Foley transformed from a hippie musician to an influential singer-songwriter. I've not heard of him, but I'm looking forward to this film. The ensemble will be led by musician Ben Dickley, again, someone who I've not heard of, playing Foley, and Alia Shakwar, who will portray Rosen, his girlfriend. Wyatt Russell and Steve Zahn are also among the cast. So Richard Linklater, Chris Christopherson, and Sam Rockwell will be directed by Ethan Hawke. This is something which is very intriguing. What do you guys have to say about this?
Sounds good. It sounds like a rustic country type movie that Richard Linklater does make. Hopefully, it doesn't go to James Franco territory, and it stays within those, the Texas thing that Richard Linklater is famous for, and even
The Americana thing.
Right. I think it'll be quite good.
So the next bit of news is that Joel and Ethan Coen have been tapped to polish the script for Universal Pictures' reboot of Scarface, which is already a reboot of a reboot of a reboot, which just blows my mind. The studio has also dated that take on the Mobster saga for August 10, 2018. They already have a release date for that. Actually, it was first reported that Antoine Fuqua was associated with this project, but he then didn't want to be a part of it. And Diogo Luna, in fact, has been cast as the titular character of Scarface. The people who are associated with it is intriguing because people like David Mackenzie and Peter Berg are actually meeting with the Universal execs this weekend.
Diego Luna as a choice for for Scarface? Isn't he too neurotic? I mean, you do want neurotic, but he just seems to be one of those guys who can never stick it, He's there in a lot of movies and you never seem to remember him. He's there in Star Wars, but for the life of me, he's not one of the most memorable characters in that movie.
What do you have to say about the directorial choices? It's either David Mackenzie or Peter Berg. David Mackenzie directed Hello High Water, and Peter Berg he has been around Hollywood for quite a while.
Either way, it doesn't make a difference. I'm of the opinion that some movies, when they have achieved cult status, you should let them be. You shouldn't just go ahead and dig up the bones of just anything just because you just want to make a few bucks. I mean, Scarface, why is it coming back? It has no reason to come back. I don't want to watch Scarface. Do you think they're making it for the new generation? No, they're not. They're just making it so that they can make a few bucks. So whoever makes that movie, I'm not interested, man.
Thing is that a Scarface modern day remake already exists. It's The Devil's Double. It's an amazing movie. It's just cancel out the cocaine and bring in oil. That's the movie. It's about Saddam Hussein's body double, and it's exactly Scarface. And it's one amazing movie. And also, between the guy who directed Hello High Water and the guy who directed Battleship, Peter Berg, I don't think it's even a competition, because Peter Berg is a poor man's Michael Bay. And he'll make it boom, but nothing. I don't think anything will come of it if Peter Berg gets the job. And also, after script polish by the Coens, and also for the record, whenever Coens have been brought in for a script polish, they do not have 100% track record like they have for the directorial thing. Remember, they even they wrote The Counselor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think, unless they're directing it, I won't count on the Coens to do anything much.
Speaking of this Devil's Double, it always confuses me that Dominic Cooper is British, Because if you look at him, he fits into the whole Middle Eastern thing perfectly.
Right.
He does.
Because he has a porn stash, dude. That's the problem. He has this very 70s porn Ron Jeremy mustache.
He
So
doesn't
I guess
have
it's because of that.
Jimmy stash, man. It's not that huge.
Anyway, the next bit of news is that MGM has picked up Dwayne Johnson's wrestling drama "Fighting with My Family." It has already cast Florence Pugh, Jack Lowden, Lena Headey, and Nick Frost as stars of this film, which is based on the true personal story of WWE superstar Paige and her family of professional wrestlers. Now, this is a documentary of the same name, Fighting with My Family, which traces Paige and her mother. Paige, whose real name is Saraya. She and her mother grew up wrestling, and they still wrestle to this very day. It's just amazing that Dwayne Johnson is actually funding a movie, and his name attached can do wonders for this film. And Lena Headey has already been cast as Paige's mother for the film. So, Arindam, your take on Fighting with My Family?
I really like the documentary, so I guess this will be quite neat as well. And Rock is a great producer. I really liked his show Ballers on HBO.
Yeah.
So he gets the sports and the business aspect of it. So I think it will do quite well.
And he is also starring in this movie, and guess who he is cast as?
The Rock.
Yeah, of course, he's cast as the Great One. So this is something I'm really excited to watch. And the last bit of news before we get into the Batman discussion is Kevin Smith has already released a post on Instagram saying that Clerks 3 is not going to happen, thank goodness. But for some god-awful reason, he's bringing back Jay and Silent Bob. I do not know where Kevin Smith lost his mojo. This is this guy I really used to love, and I am losing respect for him one project after another. Now, he is bringing back the Mallrats movie is also not happening. Jay and Silent Bob, he is trying to reboot it for the modern generation, and he's already has a deal set with Miramax, and that's what he says. So, Anirban, your take on what Kevin Smith is going to do with a project which is very divisive to start with?
He'll do what he did with Clerks, man. He'll ruin it. That's for sure. I mean, those two characters are such iconic characters that you don't need to remake them for a newer generation, because they are still relevant in this generation. You don't need to do all that hoo-ha. Clerks 3 probably would have messed it up even more. I mean, the only two movies that I like from Kevin Smith are obviously Clerks is obviously there, and the second movie that I really like for some reason is Dogma. I like the inane sense of commentary, social commentary that he made through Dogma. But other than that, I think all of his movies are shit, and he's highly overrated. Why is he even still around in those pants that he wears from 1990s? Yeah, he's a 90s kid, but he doesn't need to dress like it anymore. I don't know why.
Hold on. The thing is that the story of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is that they come to know that Hollywood is developing a project that they are going to reboot it, and they head off to Hollywood to stop the reboot. So it's a very self-referential kind of thing, and I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, and I think Red State was one of the most underrated movies of this past decade. It was really well made, and it changed genres every 15 minutes. So it was something very unique and he did not base it in the View Ask universe that he does it in. I know that his movies don't really work well. I think Yoga Hoses is a very bad movie, and also Tusk, for that matter, was not really that good. It had potential, but then again, I don't think it worked very well. But if you see his TV credits, he has the episodes that he made for Supergirl and Flash are quite highly rated. So you never know if he's making movies only for himself right now, and he admits that, and he has a very rabid, loyal fan base, and he's making it for themselves. So it's pure nepotism, because he always casts his daughter, and all of his family is involved in it, and Jason Mewes as well.
That's
So
okay.
I don't think it's going to be that good.
Yeah, that's okay. Nepotism is okay if the movies are good, but that
Right.
doesn't happen most of the time with this guy. And the, if you watch Clerks, you know that that's one thing that will bother you a lot. Wasted potential. That's the only thing that comes to mind. Wasted potential, man. This guy could have been so good, so great, but he just threw it out there. He, I mean, it's like when you see a guy and he's floundering and you know he could do so much more, and then he has all those resources that were given to him after Clerks, and he just pissed it all away. Doesn't that frustrate you?
Right, it does, but I love his podcasts, man. So at least one avenue he's like nailing it. I love his spoken word things that he does. Movies, you have your goodies, and in fact, I don't like Clerks that much as well, but I really love Mallrats and Dogma. Those are two of my favorite Kevin Smith movies.
Batman, the standalone film which Ben Affleck was supposed to direct, he's not directing it anymore. Even he has realized that DC is it's not happening out there, and the person who they have selected for that is Matt Reeves, who is the guy who directed the Cloverfield movie and the War of the Planet of the Apes. So, what does everyone think about this? What about how do you guys feel Matt Reeves would do justice to a Batman film?
Matt Reeves is, I would believe he's a kind of a director that, if you hand him over property, he hasn't found his own voice. Because every time, even when he did Cloverfield, there was J.J. Abrams lurking behind him. And when he didn't let the right one in, he had London Ratakoma in. And even in War of the Planet of the Apes, I don't think he had much to, like, we didn't see anything special really from a directorial aspect. And I think he'll be following the same template what Zack Snyder has been following. He isn't a director's director, he's a producer's director. So whatever, the producers will tell him, and he's a perfect guy who works exactly what the studio tells him. So from whatever that we have seen, I don't have much hype as I would expect if there was some really out of the blue director that they would have selected. But Matt Reeves is a safe choice, and let's see. Hope he delivers.
Yeah, I think I actually agree with everything you just said. What I'm saying is that I can see what you're saying, and all the movies that he has made, they kind of don't fall into the category where you can actually call them great movies. You can call them good movies because they're fun movies to watch. Cloverfield was damn good, but you can't give him all the credit for that. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was surprisingly not bad. It was something that I enjoyed, but it's not something that you're going to revisit and you're going to, it's going to build upon that story, and you're going to consider a classic in some time. So he is not yet in that area where you can call him a great director. But yeah, you can totally see why the studios would choose him, because he is going to deliver in the sense that he's going to give you what you want in terms of what the studios want, and probably that is what I guess the studios want right now. I don't know why they want to do that. We have all seen that the studios being that controlling has not really helped DC at all. And this is something they should move away from. They should stop letting this blockbuster directors direct their movies and look at what Marvel is doing, like what they did with uh, Taika Waititi. And this is the amazing thing that you can draw the comparison. They are trying to find that blockbuster and it's not working at all. And you can see that they're still sticking to that formula when they choose Matt Reeves. I'm not sure it's going to work, and that's a really disappointing aspect of it.
Right, I agree with whatever both of you all said, and I'm of the opinion that Matt Reeves actually is a safe choice, like both of you mentioned, and I think DC needs something which is safe right now. I think they have a lot of building to do after the garbage fire that was Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad. They have not gone on to a very good start. And we've been talking about this constantly throughout all of our podcasts. But so I think safe is what DC is going for, and I completely understand why they're doing that. And I think this movie also will be ghost directed by Ben Affleck. So there is something to look forward to about that. It's safe and that's fine. But I would have wanted, like Anirban you mentioned, I would have wanted a few choices which were a little bit out there. the Taika Waititi comparison comes in, and even Kenneth Branagh with the first Thor film. I mean, it was not very memorable, but it was an interesting choice, and that is something which you would want a few chances of. I hope that DC could have taken. So. That being said, let me ask this question to Arindam. Who do you think should be the director for a Batman film? Let's assume for a moment that Matt Reeves hasn't got the job, because he has not. It's not been officially announced as yet. He's a front runner, but provided it doesn't work out for Matt Reeves, who do you want? Who do you want to direct a Batman film, and probably a storyline if you have in mind? Probably you can say that as well.
I guess the first director that comes to your mind has to be David Fincher. I mean, everyone has been dying to, because he would be perfect for a Batman movie. What David Fincher does is he takes these really out there concepts which are very dark, which are very visceral, and would be perfectly suited for, just basing it out in Gotham City. Another director that I would really, really like, and it would be an out there choice, as everyone says, is Gareth Evans, who has done the Raid movies and Mirantau. I think it would be something unlike. We can all agree that one of the best parts of Batman v Superman was the warehouse scene where he does murder people, but he does it in an awesome manner, and it's quite ambiguous as well. So I think Gareth Evans would bring that, and with a good script, the action would be off the charts, of course. And I think he would be a perfect choice to bring in someone unique with a good vision, and he would certainly help the DCEU.
But don't you think Gareth Evans, I mean, the basic complaint which hardcore comic book fans complain about from the DC movies and from the Batman films are that right from the 80s, Batman has never done justice to the world's greatest detective label. He has never done, hardcore detective stuff.
The thing is that I don't believe that we are ever going to see that unless we see there's a reboot. Because from what they've established that Batman, when he reads an email, he says, "Who are you?" to the monitor. So in this universe, I don't think he can be the greatest detective. So with that out of the way, given with what we have, I think that would be the best choice. There's another, because I love Asian movies in general, Kim Ji-woon is also a very good choice. I don't think his Hollywood debut with Arnold and Johnny Knoxville
The last time.
it wasn't up to his mark, but that guy, he can direct the shit out of things. So with a good script, like maybe I Saw the Devil, he can work the dark like anything. So he would be really good.
The Last Stand, doesn't get enough love. I think it's highly underrated. I really love it, and probably this has to do with my unnatural love for Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I love the guy in everything, including Last Action Hero and all of his other shit movies as well. But yeah, I think that's a very underrated movie, and it's a very interesting choice as well with Kim Ji-woon.
No, that's actually.
What about you,
very
Anir?
good choice. I think that one, I never thought of that, but that one is a good choice. Kim Ji-woon is a great choice. I mean, if you remember the action scenes in The Last Stand, the bare knuckle fighting, those were amazing. I mean, I think that would suit the Batman movie. But my choice is a little bit different. So I know he is doing Star Wars, but Rian Johnson for me is one of the directors who I think can pull off the whole detective thing. If you remember Brick, his first movie, which he did, and an astounding of budget of $825,000. That one was kind of a neo-noir with, and it was done brilliantly. I think he has the chops to pull it off, a detective movie with Batman.
I mean, Ryan Johnson has been given so many huge properties. In my personal opinion, I don't think he should direct Batman as well, because he's already involved in something as huge as Star Wars. I think you need to have someone who is completely free of other franchises, or he is not burdened by the albatross that is either the Star Wars universe or the Marvel universe or the DC universe.
No, I completely agree with that. I'm saying that if he didn't have that, I think he would have been a very good choice for it.
If given a choice, I think for me, my dream director for a Batman film has to be George Miller. He's just one of those guys who just recreates action films once every decade or every 2 decades whenever he makes films. He makes action films. He did it in the 70s with Mad Max, did it in the 80s with Lethal Weapon, and redefined action cinema and storytelling in the 2016s with Mad Max Fury Road. I think that guy, his tone, his vision, His mode of storytelling is unmatched. I don't think anyone can do that, and I think he's the only guy who can actually not be pushed around unless you are James Cameron or Steven Spielberg, and we know both of these people will not sign up to make Batman film. But I think George Miller, he has already wanted to do a Batman film in the future. We've discussed in a previous podcast as well, and he is one guy who is out there. Just go and just offer him a bunch of money, give him Ben Affleck, give him all of these characters, and let's make a good Batman film. It's not very difficult.
Sounds like a good idea. I now that you talk about it, I don't think that's really a bad idea. I think it's a great idea, in fact. I think he proved with the latest Mad Max that he's not at all out of touch with the whole action genre, and I think he can do a lot of things with this action neo-noir genre. I think like the whole Batman being a detective things gets relegated to the back burners a lot, and there are only a few directors who actually have the chops to pull off that whole thing where they show him to be a detective, yet they show him to be sort of vulnerable, and at the same time show him to be a guy who can kick your butt. So that's been missing so far. I mean, since at least the Batman Begins trilogy that was there, but apart from that, yeah, I think DC has
But
screwed it big time.
there's also a thing that, George Miller, if you notice, like he said, he makes a good movie in maybe 1 or 2 decades, and every decade that he makes three, maybe in 2 decades that he makes three movies, all of them are not on the same level. The thing is that he also made, movies like Happy Feet and all, which are okay, but then he makes a sequel which doesn't quite live up to the original. And we'll obviously see that in Mad Max Wasteland, which will, I don't know, release when. The problem with Miller is that I don't think that he's very consistent. And he was making Fury Road work because it was his passion project for over 30 years. He even had Mel Gibson attached to it at one point. But so I don't believe that and because he can't work within a budget, that is also a problem that is already plaguing DC Extended Universe. I don't think he'll be a very good choice like everyone says. And even if you see the casting decisions that he made for Justice League that everyone is crying about, if you read the script for it, it's not really that good. I think one of those few detractors who wouldn't want George Miller to get his hands on things. Hopefully he'll prove me wrong if he's brought in for Justice League 2, but till then I am not on board the George Miller train.
Okay, you tell me this. You spoke about George Miller, but I have another idea and another director casting choice. I say fuck it all and give it back to Christopher Nolan. I say Christopher Nolan has already set this world. Not just for Batman, he set the entire tone, he set the entire humorless universe that is the DCU. I say just, throw it all out of the door and just take it back and give it back to Christopher Nolan. I was like, boss, this is your world. You work with it. You have a deal with another 3 films. Bring back all of the weird stuff that you do, and let him make his second Batman trilogy. At least the movies are not going to suck, or I hope they don't. Like The Dark Knight Rises.
Though I love Man of Steel, Christopher Nolan as an executive producer got higher billing than Zack Snyder, and he's the reason why the DCU exists now. The problem with Nolan is that he does not respect comic books at all. And this is the reason why DC is not working. They are not respecting it enough. They are trying to create their own thing, which is failing horribly. I don't think Nolan will work at all. Because Nolan is the reason why the DC universe is this dark. What they did with Green Lantern was they tried to incorporate that, but it failed due to script issues. And I don't know why Jeff Johns had even attached himself to that project. And Greg Berlanti was also attached to that, and also he'll be making Booster Gold next. So the last time that Greg Berlanti made a DC movie, it was Green Lantern. Now he's making Booster Gold. So I have no idea what's going to happen.
So Nolan worked in the beginning because it was different, not just because it was good.
Right.
And it stopped being that USP stopped being a USP by the third movie, and which is why we don't actually hold that movie in the highest regards as we do the first movie and the second movie. But that's the thing. He had a story and he told his story and it ended. Now, if you want him to continue, where do you go? Do you say Affleck, you're gone? Do you stick with that casting? He'll have to rework that whole universe again, and which is again something that Arindam just touched on. You'll have to sort of deviate from the books a lot, and is that something you want right now?
That's the catch-22 situation which DC finds itself in. Like, whether to stick to the books, and if you stick to the books, if you don't do justice, then people are going to be baying for your blood. And if you stray too much away from the books, then people are going to be saying like this is just another film with Batman as a character in it. Like people have been criticizing the Dark Knight trilogy as well. So this is a a very, very, very difficult position that DC finds itself in, and moving on from from difficult positions to a position of darkness, which has become a source of tremendous light. That is the Lego Batman movie. It's going to be releasing in India on the 17th, and like we said earlier, we'll have an in-depth review about it, where the three of us will be speaking about the Lego Batman film. It has an 84% rating on IMDb. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's at 91%. So this is the only Batman film that we need. So how hyped are you guys about Lego Batman?
I am super excited for this movie. I mean, we have already spoken about this in our previous podcast. How this movie is probably what Batman should go into, the real life version Batman should go into, but obviously it can't because it's just not that campy anymore. I miss the campy Batmans. I mean, I do, I really do. But that is obviously not a direction that DC will go into, and it obviously won't work. So Lego Batman gives you a chance to make fun of all those characters, and then you still have all those feelings for this character intact, where you still respect him for being the world's greatest detective and being a kick-ass character at the same time. I'll be watching this next week, I believe. I don't know if I'll be able to catch it on Friday, but I'll surely catch it on Saturday.
Okay, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that the Lego Batman movie will be the greatest Batman movie of all time, period. I don't like the Tim Burton movies very much. The Nolan Batman movies are not Batman movies. They are just crime noir with a vigilante in them. And
you had this heated argument about this the other day as well.
Yeah, right. That was pretty, and it's good to have like arguments that why we should bring some of them on, because I think we agreed to too much regarding this. We should have those detractors with us to quarrel. I'm meandering. The thing is that the reason why it will succeed is because they get the characters. After seeing the first trailer as well, I saw that even when they were making fun of it, they got the core aspect to it right. No one touches upon the loneliness of Batman. I think the first Batman movie by Tim Burton touched upon it. This one didn't. In the trailer when he comes back home and there's no one. None of the Batman movies did that. There's always Alfred. In this one, even Alfred wasn't there till maybe the end moments of the trailer. And even if you see the casting choices, they've nailed it so well. They have got people like Billy D. Williams, who had played Harvey Dent in the first Batman movie, in the second Batman movie, never got the chance to become Two-Face. So over here has been cast as Two-Face. So, there are these little references in the casting choices itself, just tiny touches like that. Michael Cera as Robin. I don't know how the guy who cast them, it's like almost perfect. They've got Doug Benson, who's the stoner playing Bane. And then if you remember the actress from Parks and Rec who was a psycho chick, she's playing Harley Quinn. I think she's more perfect than Margot Robbie. And also
I never really liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I mean, I just thought she was overly sexualized, which that's how it's supposed to be. But I don't really get the hype. I get she's hot and all, but I don't think she completely understands the character, and that's why Michael Keaton will always forever be my favorite Batman, because he completely gets that he is Batman. And that's why Will Arnett also, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be blown away, because he understands the very tongue-in-cheek performance of what Batman is supposed to be.
Right, exactly. And also the main thing is that Conan O'Brien is playing Riddler. I'm just waiting to hear that voice. And Zach Galifianakis is like, how crazy is that guy? And he's playing, I don't know if he'll be deadpan or he'll just go outright crazy. I don't think we have seen him, unleash his manic thing that he always has it contained. So I'm really awaiting Lego Batman. Hopefully I'll be able to catch it on Friday itself, if not on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, and I always thought this about Lego Batman, even in the first in the Lego movie as well. The Batman character in the Lego universe is basically Jim Lee's Batman. A complete asshole. Like he's self-centered, he's a complete dick to people around him. And that's basically Jim Lee and Frank Miller's reinvention of Batman. Yeah, the all-star Batman, the Jim Lee, Frank Miller, bane of my existence, no pun intended. That Batman was, I highly recommend for
Batman,
listeners.
you mean?
The goddamn Batman. And, I think Will Arnett, if this movie is a little PG, he'll go in that direction. Because I can definitely see Will Arnett being a complete dick to people, because if you've seen the BBC clip which just came out here, I think sometime last week, check that clip out. He just plays a prank on a poor woman who's just having a nice day at work. He just calls up as the Batman and just fucks around with her.
Because you mentioned All-Star Batman, I can see, some of those images exactly like playing out. In All-Star Batman, there's a scene in which Green Lantern comes to the Batcave, okay? And what Batman does is that he paints himself golden and the entire Batcave golden as well, because Green Lantern is susceptible to the color yellow. So I can totally see those things playing out in the Lego Batman movie. And I wouldn't have thought, but yeah, it makes sense. He is like somewhat the all-star Batman.
He is the all-star Batman with a little bit of Adam West's manic soul,
Right.
So Anirban, how excited are you for Zach Galifianakis as the Joker, the goddamn lone wolf himself as the Joker?
You asked the wrong person that question, friend, because I'm not a big Jack Galifianakis fan. I don't know. I do like, yeah, man, I just doesn't. I don't find him funny at all. I did find a few of his segments on Between Two Ferns very funny, but other than that, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. He doesn't work for me at all. And a lot of people get shocked by this. I mean, how can you say that? My girlfriend actually is a big Zach Galifianakis fan, and she goes like, if he comes up to me and offers me a night, I'll go with him. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That fact. Okay, whatever.
Jesus
In any
Christ.
case, I hate that. I don't find him funny, and not for the aforementioned reason that I just said. Not for that. I hate him because not hate him. I don't find him funny. I can't help it, man. And so
So another movie which is coming out on the 17th itself is one movie I'm really looking forward to, and I've spoken about this movie on the podcast to these guys as well, on and offline, and that's John Wick 2. Oh my, I just can't control myself. This movie is gonna just fuck my face off. This is awesome. How excited are you guys for John Wick 2?
super duper excited. I can't wait. I'm going to book my tickets tonight itself. That's how excited I am. And I don't do that often. I usually book it on a day itself, but I'm going to book it in advance, and that's what's going to happen because you've seen the trailers, you've seen all the snippets and all the teasers, and you know that there's no way that this movie is going to fail. Just no way.
I really did not want to get any reviews regarding John Wick 2. And the sad thing is that because it was pushed back in India a week late, we got to know, and thankfully it was very positively received. So I just can't wait to for them to show us, what new they have done for the genre, because sequels and action sequels, most of all, they do not work in Hollywood. So I just want to see how differently they've done things. And if you remember from the last movie, it made sense not because it had a very simple storyline. It was because they had done things from a very technical standpoint that, a casual viewer, he would find it a bit different, but it wouldn't really connect to him. The reason why we like those old Jackie Chan movies, which were based in the 80s, was because they had static camera. They had placed it in one scene and they let the action play out, and they let the action take place in the sets, and they would show it without any jump cuts. So recently, there was a Taken Honest trailer in which they showed Liam Neeson. He had 22 cuts while just jumping a fence. So that is norm in Hollywood right now. They don't show us the action. This movie did it differently because they had actual stunt. Even the directors himself, like he's a stunt coordinator. He was a former stunt coordinator, and that is the reason why John Wick worked, because they brought that old school aspect to it. So I just want to see, what different they are doing this time and what new they are bringing to the table.
And I think this is the first sequel of a Keanu Reeves film which is which has been so overwhelmingly positive. I mean, currently it's at 94% the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, 91% overall, and as per IMDb, it's at 8.8, which is an amazing stat for a sequel. And I completely agree with whatever both of you all said. And from a technical standpoint, yeah, there are no jump cuts at all. And it also pays that you have a vampire basically playing an action hero, because Keanu Reeves just doesn't age, right? He's just the same guy who you saw in Chain Reaction. He's the same guy who you basically saw now with a beard, but who you basically saw in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He's the same guy. He just doesn't age, and that has been this guy's calling card for so many years. In the 90s, all he did was fucking action films. I mean, if he didn't do Point Break, I don't think we would have had Fast and the Furious films. This guy is one of the greatest action film stars of all time. I mean, some of my favorite action films are Keanu Reeves films. So, staying on this course, what are your favorite Keanu Reeves films? Let's start with you, Arindam.
For me, it has to be because my introduction to Keanu Reeves was watching ZMGM and watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey. I don't know how many times, every time it was playing on TV, I would watch those movies. And after that, of course, Matrix was the one which really blew me away. But before Matrix, there was another movie that, scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, and it was Bram Stoker's Dracula. So those three immediately come to my mind. Also after that, I discovered the awesomeness of the FBI agent, Johnny Utah, in Point Break. I guess Point Break is one of the most perfect action movies ever made. I don't think it gets better than that. So what about you, Anir?
I think first for me it's Matrix, and I'm not going to go into the reasons because we all know the reasons why we all love the Matrix. The second movie that I really love is Speed. I've seen that movie countless number of times because that was what used to come on TV when we were kids, and that was the one VHS that my friends used to be available in the cassette parlor, and I used to go there, and my friends used to have that one Hollywood movie which was Speed because everybody wanted to watch Sandra Bullock's, and that's what we watched, and it's such a stupid movie now when you think about it. That bus scene where they show it that if he accelerates enough, they'll sort of it doesn't matter if there's a gap in the bridge, he'll still make it. Of course, that doesn't work in real life because you need a slope. All those things come to your mind now. But those things as kids don't matter at all. It was such good fun. And if I watch it now, I'm going to have the same amount of fun because it might be stupid, but it's good fun.
I also like the smaller roles that he does. He's very self-aware. If you notice, he had the role in Keanu, right, in the dream sequence. Not many mention how good he was in the Neon Demon. He had a very small role, but it was something totally not a Keanu Reeves role.
There is always the top 5 that I have, and these are Keanu Reeves movies which I can watch at any point of time. I'll start off with number 5. My number 5 is Bill and Ted's Excellent Journey. Him and Alex Winter, and they play complete slackers, complete idiots, heavy metal fans who go back in time for the history assignment and the capture and in fact kidnap famous historical characters. That is a movie which is completely out there and on paper should not work, but it does work because it was the 80s, and that movie is tremendous amount of fun. My number 4 is Point Break, for the reasons exactly what Arindam said earlier as well. Point Break is a perfect action film. It has Patrick Swayze and as Bodhi and Keanu Reeves as Johnny Utah. A tremendous star-making role. I don't know why people don't really talk more about Point Break, and when it comes to the discussion about the greatest action films of the 80s or the 90s, Point Break should definitely be out there. My third has to be Speed. The reason why Speed is awesome is because, I mean, look at the cast and look at the storyline. It's so simple and so out there, and it just works because of the frenetic pacing of the storyline. It's such a 90s film to go back to, and it just reminds me of this time of watching movies, which was so pure, just badass action, amazing one-liners, and Keanu Reeves just deadpanning the shit out of it in the film. My number 2 is Constantine, and the only reason why I love this film is because it's so fucking cool. I mean, just that sequence of him going to hell and his dialogue delivery and even the storylines, I think hardcore comic book fans give him a lot of shit for his portrayal of as Constantine because as you guys would know, Constantine is a British guy. but out here he was an American. So despite all of those misgivings, Constantine is a movie which is very close to my heart, and this actually got me into a lot of Garth Ennis's works as well. Uh, and my top most Keanu Reeves movie has to be The Matrix. The Matrix is just fucking amazing. It just redefined action as we know it, redefined direction as we know it, and redefined the character arc, the story of a hero's journey. It was redefined by the way the Matrix trilogy was. The next two films were not very good, but Matrix 1 is revolutionary. And that movie will, like Terminator 2 and like Die Hard, is untouchable. You can't go wrong. If you want to introduce someone to a lot of Keanu Reeves films, and you want to introduce them to 90s action films, you can never go wrong with The Matrix because that movie is perfection.
There was a video recently that came out, and he's being interviewed by some guys from YouTube. I don't exactly remember the channel,
Screen
but
Junkies.
yeah, that
Screen
was
Junkies.
Screen Junkies. That was what it was. And there they asked him a question about how does he believe that the Matrix is real, and he's affirmative on the subject, which actually is very interesting because, and I want your opinions on this because I actually believe that we are living in the Matrix, and I have a story that actually will sort of I'll follow up with a story that will prove my point. Is that a few days ago we had this young guy. He had come to my place and he was working on this tattoo that he was making on my girlfriend, and he's a very young guy. He's roughly around 23, 24, and he's a very good artist. And he was making this. I'm very dedicated. When he was making the tattoo, he didn't get up. He was totally focused on it, and he did a very good job. When he was done, he said, "Dude, you've come to the house. What do you want to eat?" And he's like, "I'll eat anything." And so, okay, do you want to drink something? And he goes, "Yeah, I'll drink something." So I gave him a choice. Do you want to drink Black Dog or do you want to drink Old Monk? He said Old Monk. But the next thing he did was he picked up the bottle of Black Dog and he laid it down on the floor. He sat down on the beanbag and he started clicking pictures of the bottle with his feet. I was saying, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Social media time." And he spent the whole time on Instagram or whatever he was on, or maybe Facebook. And then I said, "Dude, I just wanted to interact with him." So I said, "Dude, do you want to watch a movie?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, let's watch a movie." So I put on a movie, and I really wanted to watch one of the Mel Gibson latest movie. I forget the name. Bloodfather. Uh,
Hacksaw.
Bloodfather. Not
Yeah,
Hacksaw
Bloodfather.
Ridge, the one which he acted in. And I said, let's watch an action movie because I thought it was an action movie. So and we're watching it, and I'm watching it because I don't like interruptions when I'm watching my movies. I don't carry my phone anywhere. I don't have a phone anywhere with me. I don't carry my laptop. I'm just watching the movie. And this guy, he's on his phone the whole time, and he doesn't look up once. The whole movie passes. When the movie ends, I'm like, yeah, it was an alright movie. And he's like, that was a very good movie. Dude, how do you know? You're connected to the system the whole time. Like, do you see the point I'm making? He was connected the whole time. The way for him to tell how a movie was good was probably on popular opinion, not on his own opinion, which is what the system was, which is what the Matrix is. He was connected, and this is problems that I think the newer generation of millennials have, is that they are really fucking connected to the Matrix, and they don't know it, and we are just starting to realize it that these guys, when they're walking, they're not bothered with what's happening around them because they are so dependent on what the Matrix is feeding them that they just don't care. So, Abhishek, your thoughts?
It's either that or he has very low self-esteem and he just wants constant validation from people he doesn't even know on the internet. It's either this or that. I mean I have very different reasons for me believing in the Matrix, and that always goes back to my this theory I have about this movie which doesn't exist. There's this thing called a Mandela effect. It's a very popular conspiracy theory on the internet, which talks about a movie which came out in the 90s called Shazam, where this guy he plays a genie. and you look it up on the internet, that movie does not exist. But everyone has very vague idea about watching that film when they were growing up. So my theory is that was the day that machines actually took over, and we are already in an alternative plane. But we are going into a very conspiracy theory, track right now, and I can see Arindam just shaking his head. I mean, he's just completely. He was like, "Fuck this! I mean, like, I can't deal with this shit right now."
Dude, I think we have had
but
this
the thing
conversation before, and I do remember the movie, man. I know you do too.
Even I
And
do. The thing is that all three of us remember individually that we've seen this movie in Hallmark or something like that.
something
We've
for
seen
sure.
this.
Late night
Yeah.
show, whatever it is, okay, we have seen it. I remember Sinbad, that
I've
shitty
seen
comedian.
both. Yeah,
Okay?
I've seen
That
exactly.
shitty comedian Sinbad. I have seen him in those really stupid there's Hammer MC pants. I've seen him for sure with a turban on his head and crossing his arms. I've seen him for sure. I bet you he's lying. Everybody is lying. It's a conspiracy. It might be the Matrix. It might not be, but this movie exists for sure.
We leave it up to all the listeners out there. In case you have specific memories about this film that we're talking about, and you believe in the Mandala effect, please write to us at Indian Nerve on Twitter, #Mandala Effect. And tell us that how wrong we are right now. I think most of our listeners have been like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? We were talking about Keanu Reeves films, and these guys are talking about some conspiracy theory on the internet. So that does it for another week. Then thank you all for listening. You can find us on twitter.com/IndianNerve, facebook.com/IndianNerve, and youtube.com/IndianNerve. Look us up. Give us a follow, give us a like, and comment, subscribe, and like our videos on YouTube. We try to put these videos up every week. We'll catch you again later with the John Wick and the Lego movie reviews.